Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at this really interesting concept. It's called entrepreneurship through acquisition.
ETA for short.
Yeah, ETA for short,
Exactly.
exactly. And we've got this great Forbes India article that you shared that kind of lays it all out. Basically, instead of going through all the work of building a startup from scratch, you just acquire a business that already exists, and boom, you're CEO, like right out the gate.
Potentially.
Potentially, yeah. So is this really like a shortcut to the corner office? Like, is it that simple?
Well, I mean, it's definitely becoming a more popular route. Like, we're seeing a huge increase in these things called search funds.
There's funds.
Yeah, and they're specifically designed to help aspiring entrepreneurs, especially MBA grads, find and acquire these businesses that they can then step in and lead.
Okay, so these search funds, they're like helping to make this whole ETA thing happen. But why? Like, what's driving this whole trend? Why are so many people suddenly interested in just buying their way into the CEO seat?
Well, one of the big things is you've got this huge wave of baby boomer business owners who are getting ready to retire. And this is what they're calling the silver tsunami.
The silver tsunami, wow.
Yeah. And it basically creating this massive market of companies that are, ready for new leadership. It's like a whole generational shift in business ownership is happening right now.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's like a seller's market in a way then.
Kinda, yeah.
But didn't the Forbes article also talk about like interest rates, like how that's playing a role too?
Exactly. Yeah, so with the Fed lowering interest rates, it becomes a lot easier to borrow money. So financing these acquisitions is way more attractive.
Oh, so it's like all the stars are aligning almost.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a perfect storm, right? You've got tons of businesses that are up for grabs, and then you've got all these eager buyers, and then the financing is looking really good too.
Wow, so it does sound like all the pieces are kind of falling into place. So like, think about it. You could skip those years of really grinding it out, building a startup from scratch.
You could.
But I think the article also cautioned that it's not all roses, right?
Of course, yeah.
What are some of the things that people need to be prepared for?
Well, I mean, first of all, there's this thing called the Stanford Search Fund Study.
Okay.
It points out that the average search for a business can take almost 2 years.
Wow. 2 years.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily a quick process. And on top of that, you need a significant amount of capital to make these acquisitions happen.
Right, because these aren't just like small, side hustle businesses that we're talking about.
No, these are established, profitable companies.
Right. So you got to have some serious skin in the game.
Definitely.
But I mean, the potential rewards seem pretty enticing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the article mentioned that successful searchers, like the people who actually go out and do this, can average, like, get this $5.7 million in equity.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
That's life-changing money.
Absolutely. But, it's not just about the financial returns, right? The article quotes this Darden professor,
Okay.
Professor Alexander, and he says, you have to have that entrepreneurial spirit to really want to lead a small business.
Okay.
So it's not for everyone. It takes a particular type of personality to really thrive in that kind of environment.
It's funny you mentioned Professor Alexander because the article also mentioned how, like, he used to only hear from maybe a handful of alumni who were interested in ETA.
Yeah.
And now it's like over 15 a year.
It's really exploding.
So there's definitely a growing buzz around this. So let's get down to brass tacks. What are we actually looking for in a good ETA target? Like, what makes a business a good fit for this kind of acquisition?
Well, the Forbes article had a few things. First of all, you ideally want a business that's been around for a while, so like years, not just months.
Okay, established.
Yeah, established, exactly. And of course, it should be generating a profit. And they specifically mentioned like an EBITDA.
EBITDA.
Yeah, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, somewhere between $1 and $5 million. Businesses with recurring revenue streams are also particularly attractive.
Recurring revenue.
Yeah, so like subscription services or products with a really loyal customer base, something like that.
Ah, so like that coffee roasting company that was featured in the article.
Exactly, yeah. Shenandoah Joe Coffee Roasters.
Shenandoah Joe Coffee Roaster. I mean, who doesn't love coffee?
Exactly.
That seems like a pretty solid business.
It's a good example, yeah.
But, I guess it's not all lattes and board meetings,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
There's got to be some risks involved.
Absolutely, yeah. And the article talks about some red flags to watch out for, too.
Red flags, yeah.
Like, one of the big ones is understanding the seller's motivation.
Oh, yeah. Why are they selling?
Yeah. Why are they selling? Is it really because they want to retire, or are there problems that they're trying to hide?
Right, right.
You also want to be wary of businesses that are really reliant on just one customer,
Oh, yeah.
because that can be really risky if that relationship goes bad.
That makes sense.
And then, of course, messy financials.
Always a bad sign.
Yeah, always a bad sign. If the books aren't in order, it's like, run away.
That quote from Professor Alexander really stuck with me, where he said, failure is not failing to find a business.
Failure is buying a bad business.
Failure is buying a bad business. Like, that gave me chills.
It's true, though.
It's true. It's true. So really, due diligence is key here. Like, you really have to know what you're getting into.
Absolutely. And that's where your MBA skills or any solid business acumen, that's where it really becomes essential.
Right.
You need to be able to value the business accurately,
Right.
assess its market, negotiate a fair deal. You have to understand every aspect of the operation.
Yeah. Because it's not just about buying a company.
Right.
It's about being able to lead it effectively.
You got it.
So you're not just acquiring a business.
You're inheriting a legacy.
You're inheriting a legacy. You're inheriting its employees, its
Yeah.
whole ecosystem.
Everything.
Yeah. There's so much to think about. But this is where we're going to pick up in part 2 of our deep dive into ETA. So we'll see you soon.
It's kind of fascinating when you think about it. This whole psychological side of ETA.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a certain kind of person to not just want to be a CEO, but to actually go out and find a business that's already out there and then breathe new life into it.
It's like stepping into somebody else's shoes, right?
Exactly.
Taking the reins of this company that has its own history, its own culture, all the challenges that come with it.
Yeah. And you're not building from scratch.
Yeah.
You're inheriting this living, breathing entity.
Right, right. And that's got to be both exciting and kind of scary at the same time.
Oh, for sure.
Like, you have to be comfortable stepping into that world,
You have to be able to navigate that existing landscape,
Right.
respect the past, but also, drive it towards the future.
It's a tough balance.
It is. It's a delicate balance.
The Forbes article had this great example of this. It was Edward McDonald. He was a Darden grad.
Mhm.
And he acquired this company called Botanical Designs.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
It was like a biophilic design company, right?
Yeah.
And he took it from a single location to operating coast to coast. Like, talk about breathing new life into a business.
That's awesome. That's a perfect example of how ETA can really unlock some serious growth.
Yeah.
Clearly, McDonald had a vision and the skills to make it happen.
He did.
But it's important to remember, success isn't automatic.
Yeah.
Even with the right business and the right leadership, there are always these external factors that come into play.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, economic downturns, shifts in consumer behavior,
Yep.
new competition popping up.
Yep.
Like, running a business is never a walk in the park.
Never. No matter how you get there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So thorough due diligence is non-negotiable.
Absolutely.
You really need to understand the market the business operates in, the competitive landscape, all that.
Definitely. And, speaking of due diligence, I think it might be helpful just to define that term for our listener.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
It's basically this systematic process of investigating and evaluating a business,
Okay.
Before you actually commit to an acquisition.
That makes sense. Okay, so you've identified a promising business, you've done your due diligence, crunched the numbers, and you're ready to make an offer.
Yeah.
What happens next? Like, what's that process like?
Well, this is where your negotiation skills, all those things you learn in business school or just through experience, this is where it really comes into play.
Okay.
You're going to be negotiating the purchase price, the terms of the sale, any contingencies.
Right.
It's a complex process, and having experienced legal and financial advisors at this point is essential.
So it's like a high-stakes chess match almost,
Kind of, yeah.
with a lot riding on every move.
There's definitely pressure, but it's also really exciting.
Yeah.
You're shaping the future of a company,
Right.
potentially the livelihoods of its employees.
It's a big responsibility.
It is. It's a weighty responsibility, but the potential rewards are huge.
Huge.
And I think it goes beyond just the financial gains.
Oh, yeah.
It's about the impact you can make.
Right, right. So let's talk about the money part, right?
Okay.
Like, funding these acquisitions. How do people typically? How do they finance these deals?
Okay.
We talked about search funds earlier, but are there other ways to raise the capital?
Yeah, so search funds are definitely a common path, especially for people coming out of business school.
Okay.
And it's essentially like a pool of money
Okay.
that's raised from investors who are specifically looking to acquire a business.
Okay.
And the entrepreneur, who's often called the searcher, uses these funds to cover the costs of searching for the business, evaluating it, and then ultimately buying it.
So it's like a collective investment kind of,
Kind of, yeah.
where everyone's sharing the risks and the potential rewards.
Exactly. And they typically get equity in the acquired company. But some entrepreneurs, they'll use their own savings or they'll raise funds from friends and family, maybe explore traditional bank loans.
So there's different options out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it really depends on the individual circumstances and the specifics of the deal.
Okay, so it sounds like building a successful search fund, it takes a solid business plan,
Definitely.
a compelling pitch to attract those investors,
Absolutely.
and a strong network, too.
You got it. You have to be able to demonstrate your expertise, your passion for entrepreneurship, and the ability to actually identify a promising business.
Right, because it's not just about having the money.
Right.
It's about convincing those investors that you can actually use it wisely.
You got it. And according to that Stanford study we mentioned earlier, search funds have shown an average, get this, 35.1% internal rate of return.
Whoa.
That's a lot higher than a lot of other investment options out there.
Wow, those are some compelling numbers. But let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the realities of actually running the business.
Yeah.
After the acquisition.
Right.
That's where the real work begins, right?
Absolutely. You go from searching and evaluating to leading and managing a team, making strategic decisions, navigating the day-to-day operations.
So it's like going from 0 to 60 in a heartbeat.
Yeah, pretty much.
Especially for somebody coming straight out of business school. That learning curve must be pretty steep.
It can be, yeah.
So what advice would you give to aspiring ETA entrepreneurs as they're kind of embarking on this journey?
I think the most important thing is having a genuine passion for entrepreneurship and a real desire to lead and grow a business.
Yeah.
It's not just a financial transaction. It's about taking ownership and making a difference.
Right. It's about finding a business that really resonates with you and your values and your vision for the future.
Exactly.
It's about building something meaningful, something that you're proud to be a part of.
Absolutely.
And it's more than just leading. It's about integrating into this existing company culture.
It is.
It's kind of like being the new kid in school, but on a much, much bigger scale.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great analogy.
So how do you navigate that?
It's about understanding the existing dynamics, respecting the company's history and its values while also introducing your own leadership style and vision.
Right.
It takes empathy, communication, and a willingness to learn from the people who've been there before you.
It sounds like a delicate dance.
It is.
Blending the old with the new.
It is, yeah. And speaking of support, the article did mention that Darden is actually hosting this big ETA conference.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they're partnering with other top business schools.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's exciting, right? It shows this growing recognition of ETA as a real viable path for aspiring entrepreneurs. And it's not just for MBAs either.
Okay.
We're seeing people from all walks of life exploring this route. Anyone with the right skills, the right experience, the right drive, they can potentially succeed.
It really opens up a lot of possibilities for people who are ready to take that leap. But before we wrap up part 2, what's your final piece of advice?
Oh, good question.
For someone who's listening to this and thinking, hey, maybe ETA is for me.
I would say do your research, network with people who are already in the ETA community. And most importantly, be honest with yourself about your strengths and your weaknesses.
All right.
This is a challenging path, but it can be incredibly rewarding.
It can be?
But it's not for the faint of heart.
Solid advice. Solid advice. And on that note, we'll be back with part 3 to really explore the who behind ETA, the people who are choosing this path and the impact that they're making. So stay tuned. All right, so welcome back to our final part on ETA.
Yeah, it's exciting.
I know, right? So we've covered the what, the why, the how of entrepreneurship through acquisition.
Right.
But now I'm really curious about the who.
Yeah.
Like, who are these people who are choosing this less conventional path to becoming a CEO.
Well, the Stanford study we talked about, it highlighted these impressive financial returns.
Right.
But I think for a lot of people drawn to ETA,
Yeah.
it goes beyond just the profit.
Okay, so it's more than just about the money.
Yeah.
What else is motivating them?
Well, think about it. These are people who could easily, climb the corporate ladder or pursue a traditional startup.
Right.
But they're choosing to acquire these existing businesses.
Yeah.
And often in industries that they're really passionate about.
Okay.
They're not just investors, they're operators, they're builders, they're leaders
Yeah.
who really want to make an impact.
So they're looking for that hands-on approach,
Yeah.
that chance to shape a company, maybe even an entire industry.
Mm.
They want to be the ones calling the shots,
Exactly.
building their own team,
Mhm.
creating a company culture that aligns with their values.
Absolutely.
It's not just about working within a system. It's about actually leading and shaping that system.
You got it. And, it often connects to that legacy aspect
Oh, yeah,
that we were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
Remember the silver tsunami?
the retiring baby
And,
boomers.
yeah, all those baby boomer business owners.
Yeah.
A lot of ETA entrepreneurs are stepping in to carry those legacies forward,
Oh, wow.
to make sure those businesses continue to thrive.
It's almost like a sense of responsibility.
Kind of, yeah.
Like they're taking on this torch.
It is. It's about preserving jobs, maintaining those community ties,
Right.
building upon the work of the people who came before them.
So it's more than just numbers on a spreadsheet.
It is.
It's about people. It's about purpose. It's about making a positive contribution.
Mm-hmm.
This might sound kind of cheesy, but I can't help but wonder, like, if you were searching for a business to acquire, what would it be? What kind of legacy would you want to shape?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I think that's the beauty of ETA, isn't it? It really forces you to examine your values, your passions.
Right.
What kind of impact you want to have on the world.
It's about finding a business that really speaks to you
It is.
and then using your skills to actually build something meaningful.
Yeah, it's not just about profit. It's about purpose.
I love that. It's about finding that sweet spot
Yeah.
where your skills and your passions, they intersect with a business that's ready for growth and positive change.
Yeah, exactly. It's about taking the reins and steering that company toward a future that you believe in.
It's about carrying on that torch, that entrepreneurial torch, and making your own mark on the business world.
You got it.
I think that's a perfect note to wrap things up on.
Yeah.
We've just scratched the surface of ETA in this deep dive.
Yeah.
But hopefully we've sparked your curiosity and maybe even inspired you to consider this unique path.
Definitely. And if the idea of skipping that startup grind, and stepping directly into a leadership role excites you, there are tons of resources out there.
There are.
Search funds, business school programs, there are even books dedicated to ETA.
Wow.
The information is out there for those who are ready to dig in.
So do your research, connect with people in the ETA community.
Yes.
And most importantly, be honest with yourself
Definitely.
about your strengths and what kind of impact you want to make.
Absolutely.
Who knows? Maybe you'll be the next ETA success story.
Maybe.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of entrepreneurship through acquisition. Until next time, happy hunting.